love me. Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.
Om Shri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. It is one of the system to pass one's opinion with others. That is called communication system. Because of communication system, one can share his views with others or with each other. Therefore, communication system plays an important role in one's life. Especially in social life, it is must and should be maintained. The communication system unites the people without minding the language, caste, creed or religion, etc. Unless we have this type of system, we cannot be united. So, communication system plays not only at present, even in ancient Indian literature, we can get lots of information. Because as we are watching this, seeing the advanced technology in communication system at present days, was also proved in ancient days through Vedas, Upanishads and Puranas, etc. So, it is not an ordinary one, it is an extraordinary, it is an unusual, whatever the things. But we had this system in the ancient time itself in India. So, basing on this today, I would like to talk about communication system in ancient Indian literature prior. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. It's very common that human beings speak to each other with the help of different languages. But in prehistoric times, mostly he was communicated with symbols. There must have been many more limitations due to those symbols. Just as the discovery of fire is a milestone in the history of human existence or human civilization, the same purpose might have been served by the language. In a way, language is a lifelong partner of a human being. It's well pointed out in the book of modern rhetoric as man may be called and the animal with language, the symbol making animal. Language is a symbol, but it has wider sphere than the prehistoric symbols. Because in those days, man lived mainly with the support of gross weapons. Gradually, the attitude changed and thought became powerful. Now, man was called a rational animal. However, he may be social animal. Really speaking, the weapons are still there, but they are most powerful and ferocious. So is the case with language. It is also a weapon with changed form and so most powerful. This powerful nature of language goes without saying. Now, one cannot think of a state without a language. If there is no language, there won't be any thought process, and if so, there won't be any communication for a common man. In a way, then life will be in danger. So the language has got a key role to play in human life. It became as if a second nature of a human being. So a man is known by the language he speaks. It has engrossed while whole of human life. Previously, man used language, but after some times, it got the status of science, and language became the science of communication. Ancient Indian literature. Ancient Indian literature starts with the Vedas. This is the oldest literature in the world. When one speaks of the Vedic literature, he is concerned with all the branches. Example, the Vedas, the Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. Except some portion of Yajurveda, all other Vedas, for example, Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, including some portions of Yajurveda, are in the poetic form. Brahmanas are in the prose form. Aranyakas and Upanishads are in mixed form. Out of the Vedic literature, the Upanishads are studied widely for the simple reason that these are philosophical texts, which means they are produced with a specific intention. They communicate something. There is no doubt that they are there before the science of communication came into existence. Surprisingly, one finds these techniques in the older literature like Upanishads. So, it's very interesting to note this resemblance between the philosophical texts and science. But before that, it is essential to understand the general outline of these philosophical texts. Let us find out the modes of communication. Language is an instrument for discriminating and expressing shades of our feelings. When it is used in a deeper sense, it gets the form of discourse. The discourse is of four kinds. For example, exposition, argument, description, and narration. In an expression, the intention is to explain something only. An argument tries to make somebody change his mind. A description makes a reader as vividly aware as possible. It gives him the feel of things described, and a narration presents an event to the reader as what and how it happened. Nobody remains away from using the language, but when it is scientifically explained, it goes to the status of a science. Another, the Upanishads and modes of communication. The really amazing fact that the Upanishadic seers have used the modern techniques without naming them, and so many a times this science of communication is treated as something new. It seems that it's new in its presentation. Now it will be explored on the basis of Upanishadic Discourses. Exposition is one of the types of communication. It informs something to the reader. Upanishads, while explaining the nature of Brahman, have used this method. Example, Ishopanishad says that self-illuminous, invisible soul within and outside of everything. He is unborn, devoid of vital breath and mind, white and beyond that highest imperishable entity. The highest quality or Brahman is the only entity that is to be experienced. According to the Upanishadic sees, when somebody approaches that highest reality, he does not return. So naturally, this highest reality must be thoroughly known, but it's beyond description. It should be experienced and not verbally understand. So the language changes. Seers have tried to explain it, but at times they had used comparison and contrast, which comes under sphere of explanation or exposition. Kana Upanishad explains it as one who thinks that he has not understood it. He has to think that he has not. This is rather a clumsy construction. One may apparently think it as useless, but the hidden meaning is very much important one. It conveys the idea that one who realizes the highest reality experiences one's own limitations, and so says that I have not understand it. On the other hand, one who has really not understood it has no idea regarding that experience, and so unknowingly says that I have understood it. All the examples or all the explanation is intended in such a small line. So this is a mode of exposition which is aptly found here. One can together or one can gather approximately 13 references which speak of exposition. Argument is another type of mode of communication. It is intended to change the mind of other. Because of father's suggestions, Nachiketa went to Yama, the destroyer of all beings. Yama was not at home. Nachiketa stayed there for 3 nights, became compassionate and gave 3 boons to Nachiketa. Nachiketa asked for father's mental peace and also other state of his feelings from first boon. Agni Vidya by the second and spiritual knowledge from the third boon. Yama, without any hesitation, satisfied him with 2 boons. However, regarding the third, there is a good deal of argumentation. When Nachiketa asked for this boon, Yama held so many temptations before him. Yama said, I will allow you sons, grandsons, having 100 years of life, elephants, horses, gold lands, as much as you want, and live as many years as you wish. Next 2 or 3 slokas, step by step, go for high temptation. Yama said, you ask for desires which are next to impossible for this world. I will provide you the celestial ladies with musical instruments and chariots. He tried his level best to change Nachiketa's mind, but Nachiketa was very firm, very strong. He proclaimed, O destroyer, These unsteady enjoyments kill the luster of the sense organs. So, all your vehicles, your songs, and dancing should be good for you only. Nachiketa explained the perishable nature of a human life exactly in the reverse order in which Yama described and ultimately came to the conclusion that Nachiketa is not at all interested in any other boon except this one which is entered in secret. This is a proper and an unique example of argument. Both Yama and Nachiketa were very strong, very firm on their own viewpoint. Both of them tried their level best to convince each other. But ultimately, Nachiketa's ardent desire for spiritual knowledge conquered Yama, and he gave all his knowledge to Nachiketa without any reservation. See how the God's blessing towards him. Description is the third kind of discourse. Here, the intention is to give the reader the feel of things described. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a separate chapter on the Minimums of Ananda. This Ananda is measured by 100. Example, when this whole earth is full of wealth. That is, one Ananda of a human being. 100 such Andavas of a human being are one Ananda of Diyo Gandharva. 100 such Anandas of destroy Gangadhar or Diyo Gandharva are one Ananda of Menis, mean Pitras. 100 Anandas of Menis, Pitru Devatas, are one Ananda of Ajanan Diyo. 100 Anandas of Diyo are one Ananda of Indira. 100 Anandas of Ajanaja Diyo are one Ananda of Karma Diyo. One should Anandas of Indra are one Ananda of Brahmanaspati. 100 Anandas of Brahmanaspati is one Ananda of Prajapati and 100 Anandas of Brahman. When one reads the whole passage, one does not simply read it, but feels it in his heart. Because there is a rhythm and a sort of hierarchy maintained there, which appeals to the reader to come forward, to understand the essence. These kinds can be easily attached with this type of system of communication. The whole of Mandukya Upanishad is a very good example of a description. It is the shortest Upanishad in size, but has a wider appeal. Just within 12 mantras, it has covered all the three principles. Example, the individual, the world, and the highest reality. Narration, the fourth kind of discussion, is popularly used by Upanishadic seers. Narration is a kind of discourse concerned with action, with events in the time, and with life in motion or motion. Narration also tells a story, which is a sequence of events. Generally, people like to read and hear stories, so it must have been used for large scale. Kathopanishad has a background of narration. The Upanishad opens with the story of King Uddalaka, who was donating barren cows in the Viswajit sacrifices. His son Nachiketa was sitting nearby. He saw these donations, thought that beloved things should be donated, and asked his father to whom Nachiketa was to be donated. In the beginning, the father did not pay any attention, but when he repeated the question twice, automatically accepts. Thrice he told to Nachiketa that he had been given to Yama, the lord of death. And then the story goes on that Nachiketa immediately went to Yama, and so on and so forth. In Kanopanishad, there is a story of the battle between gods and demons. An unusual thing happened and gods got victory over demons. It was the highest reality, the Brahman, because of whom the victory was achieved. The gods found it as their own credits. So the Brahma stood before them as a secret yaska. Gods called fire, wind, Vayu, and Indra respectively to see what that secret is. The Brahman put a stick of hay before fire and wind. But neither fire could burn it nor wind could take it away. Both of them went back with insult. Then Indra went. At the time, the secret of form of the Brahman vanished, and a beautiful lady appeared before Indra and told him what that secret was, that the Upanishad does not went to Yama, and so on and so forth. In Kanopanishad, there is a story of the battle between the gods and demons. An usual thing happened and gods got victory over demons. It was the highest reality. The Brahman, because of wisdom, the victory was achieved. The gods found it as their own credit. So the Brahmana stood before them as a secret Yama. Gods called fire, wind, and Indra respectively. To see, Indra gets astonished whenever he comes across to understand it. But neither fire could burn it nor wind could take it away. Both of them went back with insult. Then Indra went. At that time, the secret from the Brahman vanished, and a beautiful lady appeared before Indra and told him what that secret was. The Upanishad does not come to an end here, but speaks of meditation on what highest reality. There are 10 more references of narration in 10 Upanishads. The peculiarity of all those phrases is that they come to an end with some philosophical advice. Two more devices are used on a large scale in 10 principal Upanishads. One of them is a metaphor. It is a good to transfer of meaning. Very famous example of metaphor means Rupaka Alankara. One gets in Mandukya Upanishad. There it is stated that there are two birds of same age, friends of each other. They are sitting in a single room or single tree. One of them is enjoying sweet fruit and the other is a passive witness. The argument audience here know that this pain is of the Lord and the individual also. The tree is enjoying the fruit of his karman and the Lord is witnessing. That is the affection, love and affection between God and nature. The individual is enjoying the fruit of his karman and the Lord is witnessing. Another well-known metaphor is found at the beginning of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It is based on the horse of Ashwamedha sacrifice. The dawn is the head of the horse, the sun's sun is an eye, the wind is the vital breath, open the mouth is the fire named Vaishwanara. In this way, the full description of that horse is given there. In Mundaka Upanishad, the ritual is plainly discarded as they are baseless ships. And here, the whole metaphor based on the ritual feeling. All Upanishads hold good that one must abandon the ritual for one's own liberation, but at the same time, while preaching, they have adopted the method from known to unknown. In the Upanishadic period, people were familiaristic with the ritual, and so the series of the Upanishads have used ritualistic terminology but for higher success. Illustration is the last device in the sequence. It's commonly used till today. The Upanishadic secrets by the series have applied direct method for these illustrations and so they became more popular, ample examples of such illustrations. One can get in the Chandogya Upanishad, famous among them is clay, brother and illustration. Aruni, the father was preaching the nature of the highest reality to his son Shveta-ketu. At that time, he gave an illustration that just as the understanding of a lamp or clay, one understands all the modifications of early. In the same way, by realizing the social, one realizes the universe, which is the form of the soul. Another well-known illustration is illustration of salt. One evening, Aruni asked Shveta-ketu to bring some salt and a glass of water. Then he asked him to put the salt in the water and told him to come next day with a glass of water. Next day, Shveta-ketu came with a glass of water. Aruni asked him to separate the salt from the water. It was not there, so he asked Shveta-ketu to taste the water at the bottom in the mind, or bottom in the middle and at the top. It was salty everywhere. Then Aruni said, in the same manner, everything in the universe is filled with the highest reality. Upanishads still now different modes of communication from the Upanishad were discussed. If one thinks objectively, one will notice that these devices were not named as discussed in the time of Upanishads. Still, they have karma known to the seers who used them. It seems that the narrative is like second nature of a human being. Everybody likes story. So when language came into existence, surfaced automatically, and it will continue to be used till the ends of language. When somebody wants to inform something to others, it is the exposition which comes to help. To convince somebody, argument is essential. Description helps one to have immediate experience of the thing. A human being is always eager to make others feel what he has already felt. When one realizes some secret entity, he cannot express it with common language, so he takes resort to metaphor. That's why all the Upanishadic seers have used all these tools, because these tools are part and parcel of language. The next generation discovers what was in the hidden form in the text of earlier times. Shri Kantaya Kalyana Nide Nidedram Shri Venkatanivasaaya Srivasaya Mangalam Mangalasasana Paremadachara Purogamaihi Sarvaesha Purvairacharya Satkritaya Astu Mangalam.